Welcome, everyone. This is Coyote and Rachel. She is a life coach and a therapist. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about one night stands. How are you today, Rachel?
Ooh, good. Well, you get right to the point. That's dicey.
Hey, gotta be up front.
Yeah, no, I like it. You're very direct. Yeah.
So, what is your opinion on one night stands? And we're also going to talk about kind of a little survey that I've done. It's not official, but talking to my circle of friends, I'll tell you what they think.
Yeah. Well, this is so interesting because there's what the world says,
Hmm.
which is do what you want, have your one night stands, and everything is a-okay. So that's the world. Then there's what women say to men, which is, we are sexually liberated and we can do what we want and we have sexual needs too. So we're going to have one night stands and we're fine with it. So that's what women say to men. And then there are what women say to me. And just by the nature of my work, people say things to me that are secrets. The world doesn't know, men don't know, their partners don't know. So, I will get women who say to me things like, I was dating a man and I asked him about commitment or being in a relationship instead of the casual sex or the one night stands, and he bolted. And then she's really sad. Or I'll get a woman who says, hey, I've been with my boyfriend for 5 years. We have 2 kids, and he will not get married. And I know this is a little bit different. This is going in the area of commitment and relationships, but that's what I do. And so what I am saying to you is that I already understand what the world says.
Hmm.
I already know what women say to men. And I simply want to throw out there a different narrative, which is the secrets, which is what women feel privately a lot and then they cry about.
True. Well, the people that I've talked to, and it was varying answers.
Mm,
Some of them were like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and some people say, more power to you if that's what you want, whether you're male or female. But the one that I tend to agree with is that we give ourselves away too easily,
mm,
and there's no emotions tied to it. And I know that's what the world says. Why it's just sex, but that's supposed to be an expression of love. And don't get me
mm.
wrong, I mean, I did my running around when I was younger, and I didn't look at it that way when I was younger. It was kind of a badge of honor, I guess, to say that
Ooh,
you
yeah,
slept with so many people, but it was empty. There was no meaning behind it. And I guess the point being is that it's something that you should take more sacred, um, especially when you think of what kind of diseases you can be spreading or unwanted pregnancies and things like that. I regret that I did what I did, because not only was I doing myself wrong, but I was hurting somebody else. Especially when you don't call that person back. It's just like love them and leave them.
yeah,
So uh, I don't know. I feel like there should be more emotions tied to it. Um, for me, also, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. So
mm,
when I could, be with a woman and sleep with that woman, then that was almost like building up my confidence, but it really wasn't. 'Cause it was like
yeah,
if they slept with me that easily, then they'd probably sleep with anybody that easy.
yeah. Wow. You threw out so many good things. And there's a psychotherapist, Esther Perel, and she's known for her work with couples. And she has said that it actually takes a lot to make something mean nothing. And when you take that into the context of one night stands, people are very adamant. I can do what I want. It means nothing and I am not affected.
Mhm.
And I don't know about that because even, when you have these one night stands and it means nothing, you add up nothing over and over 5 times, 20, 100. You add up these nothings that much and it's going to mean something. It
Mhm.
does something to you. And sometimes what it does to you is not always, good.
No, it's really not. And if you look at it this way too, I'm a big believer that what comes around goes around. So you continuously have these one night stands where it doesn't mean anything to you, and then there's that one person that really, falls in love with you,
Ooh, yeah.
and then you don't reciprocate. Well, then you meet that one person that you really fall in love with, and they don't reciprocate. Then that's gut wrenching, but you kind of get what you asked for.
Yeah. Well, and a nuance to that is that sometimes you don't know how to be,
Hmm.
because if you have trained yourself to treat women cavalier, it's a one night stand, it means nothing to you. How do you go from 0 to 100? Then it's your dream girl or a woman you really like. How
Hmm.
do you switch it off when you've been acting a certain way? Sometimes
Exactly.
you can, but most people go off instinct, they go off habit. And so sometimes you can react poorly, or you don't know how to keep the person that you really want because you have only operated in a certain way. And so
Well,
it's not even necessarily your fault. It's just like, how do you go from 0 to 100?
hmm
If you are this way with women, how are you supposed to change that on a dime?
exactly. And I know it's not like the cool thing to have these values. Everybody says, "Oh, that's old fashioned. That's the way things used to be." Well, we've gotten so far away from that, and I think that it's important that we go back to those values. That we have those relationships that are healthy, that you actually pour your heart into. We throw these things around so easily. It's no wonder that people are getting divorced at the rate that they are.
Yeah, I think that that is beautiful. You talk about values. And so the baseline for everything I do, probably every client I ever have, values. And what I mean is the values that you have for yourself. You have that baseline, it will help you so much. And so what happens, and I'm just saying this from a woman's perspective, and you can give the man's perspective, but for a woman, you cannot be someone who has many one night stands over and over and over. The man never calls you back and you're like, I don't care, it means nothing to me. And you're treated like a piece of meat, and you're treated like you're nothing. How can this not mean something when maybe a few times, two, three, five, but you start adding up in 20 and 50, and maybe you started when you were a teen, and then even into your 40s, or however old you are, however long you keep dating, but you cannot have this happen to you that much and have it be nothing.
It's taken away that core of what makes a family, if you know what I mean. You just throw people away basically. So you're easy to
Mm.
throw away your relationships when it comes to the mother and the father and the children, and you're affecting not only that person that you're throwing away, but you're also affecting children, or other people that are in your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that the world tells you that one night stands mean nothing,
Hmm.
that you can do what you want. And I just simply introduce the idea that whatever you do, there is a domino effect.
Exactly.
And then you process the choices that you make, and I actually think that one night stands, it's a very complicated, it's very nuanced to be able to do that. And I can, I'll throw this out. A lot of people, they need alcohol because you don't know this man. You don't even know this man. And a lot of women are very self conscious, even with a safe partner, a secure partner. And you're going to take off your clothes and you never met this man. You don't even know this guy. And so I would say to you, if you had a real connection and you can sleep with this person sober, maybe you like him enough, maybe it's a real connection. And I have a girlfriend who, they had a one night stand, the first time they met, their first date, and they got married. So I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but usually it's when you do that, there's other things there and you keep going with that relationship and towards that path. So I'm not saying it doesn't ever happen, but I'm saying maybe a litmus test is you got all these people, they're doing it, but they're doing it with the help of alcohol.
Yeah.
So, if you can't do it sober, then, what are you telling me? Do you know this guy? Do you like this guy? You met a couple hours ago. What do you actually know about him? And do you really feel comfortable with him? If it's not for the alcohol, I would say no. Very few people can do it sober.
Well, statistically speaking, the odds are against, that person that you sleep with and then you get married to right away, that it's going to last a long time. Um, my first wife and I mean, we were married for 20 years, so actually together for 17 of those 20 years. And, you know, then we got a divorce and we got married at 19. So that was stacked against us already. I just
Yeah, it's hard.
that society seems to frown upon the family structure now. The father a lot of times is not in the picture. So I mean, I know that's kind of straying a little away from the original topic, but I think that leads to it because you're so
Yeah.
frivolous, you're easy to throw things away, you don't really care.
Mm.
That's my
It's
opinion.
very interconnected. Relationships and emotion and the feeling that you had is interconnected. And, I think that, even, and you could speak to the men, I just speak to the women, women, they say they want this because they know that if they don't say this, I got to send a nude because if I don't, there's 20 girls behind me that will. I got to say I like your dick pic, even though I just really don't care. I have to sleep with you on the first date because, that's just what it is in 2021. And so there's all these things that the world says you should do. And I am saying, what's wrong with being an individual? And if you don't want to, you could do something different. Everyone is saying that this is what's normal. And I'm just saying, you know what? What the world says is normal, something's not working. It's very degenerate, and a lot of people are unhappy. So I'm just adding up two and two and like, okay, you know, I don't care that that's what people say is normal. I know what people are telling me, and it is completely different than what they say to men and what the world says. And then no one is hearing that voice.
Well, we live in this society where everything is just basically handed to you. You can
Mm,
get it at the drop of a hat. So nothing
yes.
really has that meaning anymore. When, I'll see some parents that will, they buy their kids everything under the sun and they don't appreciate any of it. It
Mm,
gets broken and thrown into the corner. And that's the way we
yeah.
treat relationships. Every,
Ooh.
uh, I mean, then once again, that's my observation. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be somebody out there that's not going to agree with us, but I think that you should have to work for it. I don't think you should give it
Ooh.
away at the first date. I think you should take quite a while. I'm not even saying wait 3 dates. You should wait longer than that. You know,
Yeah.
That way it does mean something. Just like when you get a job and you save up to buy that first car or whatever, you're
Yeah.
going to treat that really, really special because you worked so hard for it. I think that's the way relationships should be.
Yeah. If you have a woman who has really low self-esteem and she just feels like nothing, part of it could be the way she was made to feel. Like you're discarded over and over. You mean nothing. You actually mean nothing to these men. And, there's nothing wrong with saying to someone, does this man deserve it? Has
Exactly.
he earned it? This is something that's special, that's part of you. Why should you have to give it away for free to every Tom, Dick, and Harry? Like,
Mm.
maybe you don't. And it can feel very empowering to a woman. Right now, the big thing about having power in the boardroom and women being equal, and that's nice. But why are we so behind with power in the bedroom? It's
True.
very, very backwards. Power is saying, I'm not ready. I don't know you. I don't trust you. You don't earn it. That's power. Yeah,
Exactly.
not doing what the world says you should do or being like everybody else. That's power.
I think if people would look at it this way, if you're the guy and you're with a woman and she makes you wait and makes you work for it, then when you finally get to that point where you get to have that intimacy, then you say, "Wow, I am somebody special because look, I finally got to that point." Instead of, "Oh, well, I can't be too special. She just gave it up on the first date."
Yes, there's a psychological component that people can say it means nothing, but it truly is not true. There's a lot of complicated nuances that are going, even if you think it subconsciously, and then also mind body, they go together. It matters, and just the biology too. There are hormones and things that happen that especially for women, they get bonded in these experiences, and sometimes you can bond yourself to a man that's not good for you,
Hmm.
and yet you're in love with this guy, or you just feel loving feelings, and you're just obsessed and you really just want to be with this person, and it hijacks your brain. You may not be ready, so if you can get it closer to even, where the mind body go together, where you know something about him, you like him as a person, you can talk to him when you're sober, then your body can catch up, and it's a little bit equal. But when they're very far apart, you can get hijacked, and then you can make some bad decisions.
Hmm. Well, and then that girl that has a child, and now you have an attachment to that person, whether you like them or not, because you do have that child in common. So then that's another bondage that you didn't need. That's why you should make them work for it. I'm not saying that everybody has to wait till you get married. I mean, I wished I had, but I didn't. Um, I think it is important to know that you have that chemistry before you get married. But once again, that's another topic for another day.
Yeah, it is so nuanced, and everybody does it a little bit different. And not only do they do it different, but they act different with different people.
Mm.
So, like I said, I have a girlfriend, they slept together on the first date, and they're married, and they're happy, and they're a great couple. And so, you really have to just look at yourself and your own choices. And there can be times where you're like, that guy didn't deserve it, and I felt like crap. It wasn't good for me. And you could have another time where you're like, well, it was okay. In my mind, this was my choice. It can be a continuum. It doesn't have to even be black and white. It's just that the world's narrative is very black and white. This is okay. There are no consequences. Everyone is doing it. And I think that that is narrow minded, and that you should introduce shades of gray.
Well, if just say you're infatuated with this person, and that first time you meet, if you make them wait, and then say the next week maybe you don't feel so infatuated with them, then you know you didn't make that mistake.
Ooh, yes. I think you're onto something. You can save yourself from making really big mistakes. Yeah, just by keeping your head on straight. And you know, I I think that the reason why people shy away from this topic is that they want to say, well, we have needs and women like sex also, and I don't want to play games. And so these things at their face value, they make sense. But you should know that for each thing, there's a nuance below the surface. Like a tree has roots. And so the tree is like, okay, well, women have needs too. Why can't they have sex and have casual sex if they want to? You know? But the roots are that sometimes when this happens and the man doesn't call you back, you're crying. And sometimes you do this and it's the wrong man and you're chemically bonded. And then sometimes you do it and maybe it was a good guy and it worked out for you. So the roots, everything underneath, it is very complicated, very nuanced. And to say that a one night stand means nothing, that it's easy, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Well, there's the stigma that the man is like some super guy or whatever because he can sleep with a whole bunch of women, and then the woman is a slut if she sleeps around with a bunch of men. But I say it's both. You're both a couple of
Ooh.
sluts, but I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
I understand where some people are like, hey, I'm gonna be blunt here. I'm horny and I want a piece. I understand that, but that's not the way to go about it, because you're taking that risk of either catching something or having a child or emotional scars. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there is that other piece too, where men inflate their numbers. They're like, I slept with, 100 women, 50 women. Oh, I don't know, whatever you say. And then women just instinctively know, well, if I slept with 50, I better say it's 10. So men inflate the number and women deflate
mm,
because they know that they are going to get judged on this.
that's
And so the
society.
world says, do what you want. There are no consequences. And that is simply not true. There's no woman on the planet. Well, okay, a few, but it's very, very rare. There might be a man who slept with 300 women. He's in his 40s, he's single, it could happen. You won't hear many women bragging that they have been with 300 men. They want to hide it.
Yeah.
And so it is this double standard that the world says, go ahead and do it, but you are punished for it. That is the reality. That's kind of what goes to the roots. You can say what you want, but a woman is not going to say on a date, oh yeah, I have sex when I want and I've had 300 partners. She's not going to say that, not to the guy she really likes.
Yeah, I mean, I know as a guy that would be a big turn off for me. I'm like, oh, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
But I mean, even though they're in society, it seems like it's okay for the guy and not okay for the woman. It's really not okay for either one.
Mm,
I
mm.
mean, honestly.
What do your friends say about it?
Well, I would say that the majority of the ones that I've talked to, they will tell you that it's really not cool and that
Mm.
should have meaning. But then there's some that they don't care. It's like, hey, I sleep with whoever I want to. She can sleep with whoever she wants to. I just I don't know. I think it should have meaning behind it. And I'm not trying to be a beta male here. I'm just saying from the emotional part of it that I have had those women that I really, really, really thought I wanted to be with for the rest of my life, and they just kind of tossed me to the side, and it was crushing. And I look back and I think, do I want my children to emulate what I did? do I want my, how is my mother going to look at me if she knew that I slept with all these people? They're going to look down on me. And I don't want that. I want
Yeah,
to be an example for my kids. And now I can't just tell them, oh yeah, I slept with all these women. That's, that's really bad. I don't know how else to
yeah,
put it. It's bad.
yeah. And I think it's a misnomer to say that men don't care and don't have feelings. That's also what the world will try to tell you. Like, yeah, do what you want, sleep with who you want, and there are zero consequences. And you know, men will be like, I would like to get laid as much as possible. That's fine. I understand that. But to say that there's not consequences to the choices that you make, and to say that men are not also sensitive, or that men's sexuality is not also very complex, it is not as simple as just men want to get laid all the time. It is truly not. And so when you say, yo, there was a time when I was crushed, men can feel crushed too. It's not just women who are crying because the man didn't call them back and they felt like a piece of meat. A man can also feel rejected. And in our microwave society where you get tossed out, I mean, you just slept with someone and now you got ghosted.
Hmm.
And that hurts your feelings.
It really
And
does.
that's real.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, I thought I was something, but now I look back. I mean, I guess hindsight's 2020, but if I could go back, I would have changed things. I would have waited. Um, maybe I wouldn't have been in a failed marriage, but that's I can't say for sure. That's just a
Yeah.
guess. I mean, could have
Yeah.
still ended up the same way. I don't know. That's just hypothetically speaking. I just think we should really think about these things before we move forward with them.
I don't think it's a black and white.
Yeah.
One is wrong or one is right. I think that you have to introduce shades of gray. And I disagree that the world says do what you want with no consequences. I feel like you have to add in the nuance that sometimes it matters, and that when you make a choice, there's going to be a domino effect. And so I simply want to introduce that because everyone says X. Why can't we introduce X, Y, and Z? It is more complicated. It is not simple.
Maybe we shouldn't rely on what everybody says. That can't
Yeah,
be right for everyone. It just can't.
right.
You
And
have
there's a
to.
few people like you and I were talking about it. We're like, well, what about some other kinds of scenarios? And it's something that people think or they experience and it makes sense to them, but it's just you don't want to say it because that's not what the world says.
Hmm.
You sound crazy.
Well, just like with Twitter and all the other social media, everybody on there might be saying one thing, but everybody's really thinking another. And they're just
Mm,
too afraid to say so because they don't want to be
yes.
the black sheep.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. Like you said, it's not black and white. You can only speculate on a lot of it. My opinion is wait. Don't don't just jump in bed with anybody.
Yeah. And I like that you are willing to say it out loud because you're a man and you have this life experience to draw on. And I think it's good because then other men will say, oh, you know what? Kyle said it out loud. I was thinking some of those things too. So, it's good for people to be brave. And I advocate for people to have some value for yourself. And yeah, do what you want, but then also process the choices that you make. And once in a while, make a different choice and see what happens.
Right? You never know.
You never know. You never know. It is not it is not a judgment on people. It is more that everyone says something and we want to talk about it in a slightly different way because no
Well,
one else is.
I mean, I can't judge anybody else because I mean, I did wrong too. I could just pass on my experience and how I feel about it, give the best advice that I can. And once again, I know there's going to be people out there that are going to say, you're full of crap or whatever. But there's going to be those few that are going to say, you know what, you're right. Maybe I should think twice before I do something like that.
Yeah. Again, my litmus test is, can you do it sober? If you can do it sober, maybe you like that person and maybe there's a connection. And if you need alcohol, maybe just,
It's probably not a good idea if you need alcohol. But
yeah.
any,
Well, it's just an interesting, because you're like, well, how do I know? Whatever. I think it's a good way to sort of gauge something. And honestly, most people, they cannot take off their clothes with a stranger that they met 2 hours ago without the help of alcohol. So I just think it's an interesting thing to keep in mind. Like, if you want to know, well, that could be something that helps you out.
true. Well, I think we're going to leave it at that, and we will come up with something really great for the next one. And if anybody out there has an idea for a topic, something that you'd like to discuss, please leave a comment. Let us know. I will be glad to cover it for you. And I thank you, Rachel, for joining me today. And we will catch y'all on the next one.
Mm.